Okay. Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday night. For everyone in the chat, throw some love in there. It's good to see that there's people actually watching. This is a Ninja Warrior channel, and this is a non ninja stream, so I'm just glad we have people at all. Genuinely. This is going to be a good time. How we doing today, guys? For the occasion, I made some movie theater popcorn. I did eat about a third of it already, waiting for the stream to start. But we're here. We vibing. This one's gonna be very interesting. I'm honestly very excited because like movies are something I'm really enjoying, especially lately. What's up, Peaglin? Good to see you. I've never really openly shared my movie takes. Like I've talked to people about this type of stuff before. But ultimately, I've never put my movie opinions on the internet, you know? So this is gonna be a big one for me. This is a big stream because I honestly really enjoy watching movies. I watched 2 this week already, and I'm probably gonna watch a third one tomorrow. So I love me some movies. With that said, I do have the slideshow prepared. All right, here we go. In this stream, I will be ranking every movie I watched in 2025. It's a big endeavor, but I very much wanted to enjoy this one and share this with you guys. What's up, Gonto? Thanks for watching. Here we go. So, the objective. I made it my New Year's resolution to watch 52 movies in 2025. One movie for each week of the year. All right? I try to watch as many different genres of movies as possible. I'm typically a big nerd on sci-fi, fantasy, superhero stuff, Star Wars, DC, Marvel, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, those types of things. I'm a big nerd like that. Percy Jackson is one of my favorite book series of all time. I really enjoyed the TV show. What's up, Ninja Gamer? So I was like, let's get obviously I'm still going to watch my nerdy favorites and stuff like that, but let's watch things that I normally wouldn't watch. I watch things that I either couldn't as a kid, like I just didn't have the money or I didn't have a car to go to the theaters to watch it. I had recommended to me before. A lot of the recommendations come from my dad. My dad is a big movie guy. He got me hooked on movies, and without him, I probably wouldn't be doing this stream. I probably wouldn't have watched as many movies, honestly. So thank you, Dad. But of course, I got a lot of recommendations from my other family members, my other friends, my coworkers, bosses, everything like that. So it was a pretty long list. And I also went on IMDb, which is a website for movies, as most of you guys would know, movies and TV shows and stuff like that. And basically, wait. Okay, I'm just making sure my mic was on. Bruh. I, for some reason, thought my mic was off. Okay. Basically, IMDb had a page of 9,000 different movies, like of just the best movies of all time, whatever else. And I went through them, and if they stuck out to me, whether the poster looked cool, they had an actor I liked, or the premise sound cool, you know, the synopsis, the little write-up telling you what the movie's about, or I've heard good things about it from other people, or the internet, or the general public, whatever, I put it on the list. I had roughly 400 movies on the list. And as I watched movies and took one of them off of the list, I also put more movies on the list based off of recommendations or if I saw a trailer for something that I liked. So it was always changing. I don't add as much to the list anymore because I think I'm at a pretty set spot with what I want to watch. And I might add some things later, but right now I'm on a roll. But pretty much, I watched 74 movies this year. Mind you, the goal was 52, right? So I obviously surpassed my goal. There were a lot of weeks where I watched 2, sometimes 3 movies in a week. I also had a theater right down the street. I tried to go as much as I could without, destroying my wallet. Um, had a great time. I love movie theaters. Some of my fondest memories are in movie theaters. I have great stories about going to the premieres of movies. Keep in mind, though, as I rank all 74 of these movies, that this is my opinion. Please be respectful of that. Of course, you can disagree and roast me in the chat if you want, but let's just not get ugly with it. Basically, it goes. It's gonna get more emotionally biased the higher up on the list we go, even if you don't agree with the quality of the movies, and that's why a big reason why I say that. Yeah. Without further ado, last place is the Star Wars Holiday Special. This was awful. I had always heard horror stories about this holiday special, and I never really understood what was so bad about it, right? And I never seen it. Then I found it on YouTube, and this is the only movie on the list where I had to watch it in multiple sittings. I was able to watch every other movie in one go. I found something that kept me going through the movie, even if I didn't like it. This movie sucked. At one point, it's like a really cheesy Christmas sci-fi movie, but they're Wookiees, so they all go like Chewbacca, and that's not enjoyable. And then at one point, it's the kid, Chewbacca's kid, going on like his hologram TV thing and watching different shows. And there's like a 5-minute seductive song. And I mean seductive, like it's very provocative, adult oriented. It was very uncomfortable. Bad acting, bad special effects, bad Wookiee costumes. They gave Luke Skywalker this really bad wig, and Luke and Leia were only in it for like a minute. So it was just like, I don't know. I'm really surprised that this didn't kill the hype for Star Wars. Because it came out a year after the first Star Wars, A New Hope, and 2 years before Empire Strikes Back. No. This was not good. This is the worst movie I saw of the year. It's bottom 3 movies of all time for me. It's an hour 20 minutes. It's an hour 20 minutes of my life I will never get back. So, dead last, Star Wars Holiday Special. Number 73, The Shining. This is already a hot take. I did make 74 slides with all of this info. So, The Shining isn't one that I really was planning on getting around to, honestly. But in January of last year, Sasha read the Shining novel, and she was on a big Stephen King kick. She really does enjoy some Stephen King stuff. She is much more into horror than I am. I'm not really into horror at all. Gonto, it's good. It's good that you didn't know the existence of that special because it's awful. So Sasha read The Shining among some other Stephen King novels. She wanted to watch the movie, and it was on streaming, so I was like, sure, I'll watch the movie with you. Why not? Not a horror fan. We both hated this movie. From Sasha's standpoint, it butchered the book. It took everything good about the book and removed it from the movie. In my head, it was like a descent into madness type of horror movie, like a psychological whatever, but there was never really enough premise to justify the character arc. It always felt like they implied basically that anyone who moves to the cabin that they were at, someone goes insane. But it was an implication. They never elaborated on it. And then Jack Nicholson's character, obviously pictured here, just starts to go insane throughout the rest of the movie. And then in the last 30 minutes, it's like they tried to get into the lore of the novel too little too late, because it made absolutely zero sense to me, who didn't know the book. And Sasha hated the way it was explained anyways. I didn't enjoy this one at all. Jack Nicholson, his acting does carry this to put it at a 2 out of 10. But besides that, I would probably give it a 1, maybe even a 0. So, second to last. Number 72 is Tron. I think Tron is probably the most overhyped movie I've ever seen on this list. I do want to watch the sequels. I'll get to the sequels later. Basically, the big spectacle about Tron was that it was 1982 and they used digital effects, like CGI. This is like the first instance of true CGI Whereas other sci-fi things, they had done more like practical effects mixed with a little bit of VFX, like a lightsaber. It's a real rod that they fight with swords wise, but then they just edit the color and the sound of the lightsaber, right? Tron is like a full digital world, right? It doesn't change the fact that it looks awful. Um, what's up, Sasha? The concept of this one is basically the Matrix, but they stopped referencing the plot about halfway through the movie in favor of a giant action sequence, like a big battle of sneaking around and getting to a headquarters and beating the bad guy and whatever else. The action's not good. And you top that off with the special effects. It's not even good special effects for the 80s. Because 2 years before this, Empire Strikes Back came out. We saw Yoda, puppet Yoda, lift an X-Wing out of a swamp. We saw Luke Skywalker get his hand cut off. Like, we saw the Millennium Falcon fly through an asteroid field 2 years before this, and it looked so much more impressive than anything that Tron did. So no, I don't get the hype about it. Now, the sequels look very good. So I am going to give the sequels a shot, at least the second one, Tron Legacy, because as a kid, I always wanted to watch it. We actually got a 3D TV way back when those were things. And we have that movie in 3D. My dad does. So I'm going to watch it when I go back to Hawaii. I'm going to watch that one in 3D because Tron's known for the special effects. So we'll see how that goes. Number 71 is a Disney Channel original movie, Return to Halloween Town. Sasha got me into the Halloween Town movies like 2024. And there were 4 of them. And I saw the first 3 with Sasha. I watched this one on the plane. She told me it was the worst one. This is the worst one. They also recast the main girl from the first 3, and they replaced her for this movie and didn't even tell her. And this girl, she's not bad, but it was just so unnecessary. Like, she didn't do anything significantly better than the original actor, so it was not good. Everyone else in the cast did pretty bad performance-wise. The story was also very predictable and cheesy because it was Disney Channel-ified. And one of the biggest draws of Halloween Town, I think, to a lot of people was Debbie Reynolds, the legend Debbie Reynolds. She was in it for like 30 seconds, basically, and that wasn't fun. I look forward to her character in every Halloween Town movie, so the fact that she wasn't in it was definitely a bummer. Number 70 is Blade Trinity. I loved the first 2 Blade movies with Wesley Snipes. The second one in particular, I think is one of the best superhero movies out there, period. But this was the movie where they tried to basically start a franchise, and they were going to make a spin-off about the 2 characters in the background here behind Blade. Yeah. I mean, Shining was not enjoyable, dude. Draw to Halloween Town was Halloween Town. The draw for me was Debbie Reynolds. But Halloween Town is a nice world. Blade Trinity starts off by killing off the mentor. Spoilers for these movies. And they kill off the mentor, which was a bummer. And they replace him with a supporting cast of people who are trying to act, but they just can't. They're just not good actors. And the only 3 actors that actually tried are the 3 right here. The villains were also given some of the worst writing ever. Their dialogue was awful. Which is really sad because the villains in Blade 2 were so good that it was just such a significant step down. Ryan Reynolds also gets flack for being himself in every movie that he's in. He is very much himself in this movie. This is the first time I really found him doing that annoying. I thought his character was insufferable in this movie. And I never feel that way about Ryan Reynolds in any of the movies he's in. So, yeah, number 70, Blade Trinity. It's really sad because Blade saved Marvel. Genuinely, Blade saved Marvel. Marvel went bankrupt in the 90s, and they had to sell the rights to Spider-Man and the X-Men and the Fantastic Four for different movies and stuff. That's why Spider-Man is owned by Sony, and up until recently, the Fantastic Four and the X-Men were owned by Fox. Blade were the movies that made enough money to keep Marvel alive. Without Blade, there's no Avengers Endgame or anything like that. It's crazy. And the third movie sucked. Number 69 is The Final Destination, which is the fourth Final Destination movie. I thought some of the deaths were interesting. There's a part where they're realizing who the next person to die is. Let me back up. The concept of Final Destination, for those who don't know, is people survive an instance where they're supposed to die. And because of that, death tries to find ways to kill them, even if they are ridiculous or cartoony or outlandish or dumb, right? Now, the order in which they should have died is the order in which they die in the movie. So there's one part where they basically had to choose between two people because they died at the same time and they were in different spots. I thought that was a very interesting dilemma. And Kane, you bring up a good point in the chat. There was a racist in there and he died, and it was a hilarious death. It was a great death because it was so silly and ridiculous and goofy. The plot, however, was very lazy, very formulaic. It very much was like people sat down in the writer's room and they were probably like, look, it's the fourth one. People know how this works. Let's just start doing what we do. And it felt really lazy. Yeah, it just felt like it put the least amount of effort in compared to any of the Final Destination movies. Keep in mind, I watched the first Final Destination as a kid, like as a teenager. So this year I watched 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I need to watch Bloodlines. I didn't watch Bloodlines yet. So this is the first of 4 Final Destination movies on this list. Number 68 is Kung Fu Panda 4. I am so sad because I love all 3 Kung Fu Panda movies. Of the first 3, the good 3. This was so clearly nostalgia bait and then trying to set up for a new trilogy or something with Awkwafina's character, who was obnoxious and didn't earn... Spoiler alert, she becomes the Dragon Warrior at the end. She didn't earn it. It felt, character arc-wise, lazy and dumb. Should have just been Tigress. And the Furious 5 weren't even in the movie. So, no. Not only that, the fights were the lamest. The villain was the lamest. And they do a bit where Tai Lung bows to Po at the end and deems him worthy as the Dragon Warrior. Tai Lung would just literally never do that. A lot of the people who bowed to him would literally never do that. I have a problem with this movie because I care so much about the first 3, and this was so much worse. So much worse. Number 67 is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's a British comedy. And it's like slapstick, satire, humor set in medieval times. Yeah, I'm not even touching Despicable Me 4, bro. I'm not even touching it. I don't want to. So, Monty Python is widely regarded as one of the funniest movies of all time. I don't see that at all, actually. I think there are maybe 2 jokes that I found funny. And I think some of it is just British people say, oh, British humor is this, British humor is like that. It's just British humor. British humor just isn't funny if this is what British humor is, honestly. It's just not. It's not even like dry humor, because dry humor, there are instances of dry humor higher up on this list, and the jokes actually land. And there are instances of British people making jokes on this list, and it lands higher than this. This was just not funny. I felt like I was bored. I was bored watching this movie. But it is better made than most of the other movies that are below it. And there were a couple of jokes that got me to chuckle. But that's it. I really can't hype this one up. I think this is a vastly overrated movie. Number 66 is Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. So this is a guilty pleasure of mine. You guys probably have heard of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, right? You guys have probably heard of that. Where Winnie the Pooh is an axe-murdering maniac and they make a horror movie out of it, right? Well, that movie made so much money that the writers and directors and producers and stuff, that whole company that made it, had enough money to make a whole franchise. And they're making the Twisted Childhood universe, okay? I'm going to look at you guys while we talk about this. Okay? The Twisted Childhood universe. When a beloved childhood character becomes part of public domain and people can do anything they want with it because Disney doesn't copyright them anymore. These guys are going to make horror movies about it and put them in the same universe. And this year, 2026, they're doing Pooniverse Monsters Assemble, which is like the Avengers Endgame of all of these horror-based childhood Disney characters. These are not good movies. They are absolutely a guilty pleasure of mine. I love both of the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movies because there's 2 of them. So, genuinely, guilty pleasures. I know they're bad. I know they're bad. No one has to tell me they're bad. I have eyes and ears, okay, and a brain that functions. But it is just so ridiculous as a premise that I will keep watching these. I'm going to watch all of them. This year, they're doing a Pinocchio one where Pinocchio impales people with his nose and skins little boys to wear their skin so he can feel like a real boy. Like, come on now. And then we're getting the crossover. It's hilarious. Anyways, Popeye the Slayer Man. Dude, I need to watch the ones not affiliated with this universe because there are some out there. Like, they're making a Cotton Eye Joe movie, bro. Okay. So Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. Shrek horror. Shrek is too new still. It's going to be decades before he's even in public domain at all. Yeah. So Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, it's not good. And not because it's like, oh, it's so bad it's good. This one tried to take itself a little more seriously. They went very psychological into Neverland and the Lost Boys and why, like, Peter Pan's not Peter Pan. He doesn't fly or whatever. He is an abused, drug addicted psycho who has decided to abduct children and murder them to send them to Neverland because growing up is terrible, and he thinks that he's saving them from growing up by murdering them. Tinkerbell is also a dude who is the first person he kidnapped and has like this weird, toxic, somewhat romantic relationship with. It's a very disturbing movie. It's a very disturbing movie. But this one tried to take itself way too seriously, and the writing wasn't good enough for that, and the acting wasn't good enough for that. So I am excited to see this Peter Pan again. This guy right here, the guy who plays Peter Pan, he did a very good job. His acting was very good. It was very like Heath Ledger Joker. Yeah, he like, you could tell he pulled inspiration from that. Yeah, so there's that. Number 65 is Warfare. This is another hot take. Basically, this is the story of a mission of a team that was stationed out in the Middle East just, 15-ish years ago. A lot of people love how realistic it is, how accurate it is to the actual military, the way it's shot, and the interactions between the soldiers. I'm not going to say that it's bad, because I think those are genuine pros. I was just bored. Like, I think there's a reason why most war movies, they get glamorized and the action sequences look bigger and they're shot differently and there's flashier stuff going on and a little more action, because the real military, I mean, they're not doing all of that. They're doing things by the book. They have their standards and their procedures and everything else. And I just wasn't that into the standards and procedures, especially because I didn't care about the soldiers. The soldiers, very stacked cast, by the way. Very good actors. There was just not anything there to make me feel invested in whether or not they survived or not, So I cared a lot less, and I just felt like I was watching kids play with their action figures, which is really sad because it is a very objectively well-made movie, but I can't really put it higher than this. Number 64 is Airplane, one of the biggest parody, satire, slapstick comedy movies of all time. People reference this one all the time. It gives the iconic quote, surely you can't be serious. I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. Like, that's where that's from. I didn't really enjoy the movie. There were a couple jokes that I was like, oh, that was funny. But other things, it was random for the sake of being random. And that's slapstick. That's the type of comedy it is. It works for a lot of people. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't parody something directly to where I can relate to it. Or not relate to it, but to where I can find it funnier. Like, there's a movie, a short film, 30 minutes long, called Kung Fury. It parodies everything from the 80s. And because I've watched enough 80s stuff, I can laugh at more of it because I understand it. This is just things happening, so it's not as funny to me. I don't connect with the humor as much. So, Airplane, pretty low. Number 63 is Brightburn. In 2019, James Gunn, who does Guardians of the Galaxy and is now in charge of DC, he basically funded his brother's movie, which is this. And it was basically, what if Superman turned evil as a child? And it's kind of like this murder mystery from the perspective of this kid's adopted parents, right? Because Superman crash lands on Earth and he's adopted by farmers, right? So same thing. This kid crash landed on Earth and found out, he was adopted by farmers. He finds out he's an alien. His powers start to kick in. And because he feels lied to and betrayed by and everything else, whatever else, he just starts going on a murderous rampage. And then they try and pass it off as like a mystery to the parents, but you know who did it the whole time. So it was very underwhelming and it felt like it was wasting time. Like, the plot could have gone in a better direction and gone in a further direction in order for it to be good. But it wasn't. It didn't. It did exactly what it was supposed to. So, yeah, this is not great. Number 62 is Death of a Unicorn. I really wanted to like this one. Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega are a father-daughter duo. Great actors. Love them both. They run over a unicorn with their car. And we get into the moral ethics side of things of, what do you do with a dead unicorn? Do you monetize it? Do you try and bring it back into nature? Do you honor whatever? And then the unicorn's mom gets involved because he's like, dude, you just killed my kid, right? And that's where it gets a little horror-based. The problem is, it felt like two different movies. It felt like it was a horror movie with a unicorn, so it was supposed to be funny, goofy. And then it also felt like it was supposed to be this moral, philosophical drama with billionaires that Paul Rudd works for, to be like, this is how the rich view things and this is how the poor view things, right? And neither of them hit because they were dividing their time between the two concepts unevenly. And I didn't enjoy it. It was very boring as a result because I just felt like I was jumping from one end to the other, Okay, let me get some water. We're making pretty decent pace. 30 minutes for 12 movies is all right. We'll go faster. 61. I really wanted to put this one higher. Five Nights at Freddy's 2. As someone who has played Five Nights at Freddy's and been around friends who play Five Nights at Freddy's and talk about Five Nights at Freddy's a lot throughout high school and even college, right? If you are a FNAF fan and you love FNAF lore, you are going to love this movie. It's a lot of fun in that regard because it gives you way more lore to work with than the first movie. It just was not a good story. Like, it was still just a generic B-list horror movie plot. There's still not enough action with the animatronics, with them being, the faces of the franchise, they didn't do enough, you know, and um that's not great. Now, it did leave off on a cliffhanger for the third one, so I'm gonna have to watch the third one. But my general rule is, if I don't like the movie, I'm not gonna watch the sequels. If Five Nights at Freddy's 2 did not end on a cliffhanger, I would not watch the third one. But because it did, I'm going to. Also, Abby liked mainly Chica for some reason. That's the other thing. Chica was the main animatronic in Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm all for having a balance and stuff, but Freddy is barely in Five Nights at Freddy's, and that's really sad. That's really sad. All right. Number 60 is The Mask, a Jim Carrey comedy based off of a comic book where a man puts on a green mask and gets reality warping powers and uses it for their own shenanigans, just abuses the power fully. In some ways, it was good from a story standpoint. I think the plot was good. I think Jim Carrey is a good actor. I think the comedy was just too over the top. I just didn't find this one funny. And that's the thing. If you're mostly a comedy and you're not making me laugh, you're going to end up lower on the list. And that's why this is number 60. I don't have much else to say on the matter. Number 59 is Hancock. Guys, I have wanted to watch Hancock for such a long time. I remember seeing the trailers for Hancock before Transformers and Transformers 2 and whatever else on DVD. And I was like, yeah, I want to watch it. And it was so unfortunately underwhelming. It was a really cool concept about like this guy is super OP. He's basically Superman, but he's a jerk. And he acts like a jerk and he has no regard for human life. And someone comes up to him and says like, hey, I'm going to be your PR team. We're going to try and turn your image around and turn you into a genuinely good guy. That part was awesome. Then it throws in this lore about like how he's an immortal or something like that. And he has amnesia, so he has no idea. So he's learning about his origin. And it completely shifted the movie in a different direction. And all of a sudden, the I've become a good guy plot line is not good. Like it's just gone. And I don't like that because that plot was so good and made the movie so exciting. And then they abandoned it. If they had stuck with that the whole way through and done a sequel about his origin and his backstory, I think that would have been a lot better. Instead, it was a mess and we never got a sequel, which is unfortunate. Number 58 is The Amateur, a movie that came out this year. Revenge stories are getting pretty big because John Wick is a huge revenge story, right? And it made a lot of money. It was very successful. So a lot of people are making their own revenge action movies. This one's interesting because Rami Malek, who's the main character, he's not a fighter. He's not John Wick. He's an IT guy. He's a computer genius. He's a machine and engineering guy. So he's using his brain instead of his fists to fight these battles and get revenge for his dead wife. I thought that was a very interesting twist on the concept. It does mean, though, that there's just not as many high moments, you know? And for a final act, it was like a good discussion. There was some great dialogue, but it was just missing its own oomph, its own identity, you know? It just didn't have the extra pizzazz, in my opinion. But I really liked the idea of a revenge story where the guy is using his brain instead of the brawn. So it is a little higher. Respect for trying something different. 58 out of 74. Number 57 is the 2003 Ben Affleck Daredevil movie. Overrated. I put overrated. I think it's definitely overhated. I have always been told to not watch this movie. I've been told it's awful. Okay? Is it cheesy? Yes. Is the dialogue kind of cringy at times? Yes. Are the action sequences, the fight choreography, is that pretty bad consistently throughout the movie? Yes. But the actors themselves do well. Daredevil himself is a very good character. It has a good story at its core with a love story between Daredevil and Elektra. Kingpin is a pretty good villain. Bullseye's a little cheesy, but whatever. It was enjoyable. It was a very enjoyable movie. If you're looking for some Oscar-worthy cinema, of course you're going to be disappointed with this movie. But if you're just like, I just want to see some superheroes doing their thing, and I want it to feel like a comic book or something like that, or I just want to have fun with the movie, yeah, watch this movie. Number 56 is the 2017 Power Rangers movie. I started this one forever ago at someone else's house, had to leave, and then never finished it. So I watched it all last year. Um, Gosh, I really wanted to like this one. I love the Power Rangers. Power Rangers were awesome as a kid, you know? But the Megazord battle at the end was honestly worse than the TV shows with worse special effects. These guys had good special effects and bad action, which was really sad. On the other hand, I was very invested in the characters. The Rangers themselves are very interesting people. I would have really enjoyed a sequel with this team. Unfortunately, didn't make enough money, so a sequel was never made. Wasted potential. Wasted potential. But it was fine. It was a decent movie. 5 out of 10. And make no mistake. A 5 out of 10 is 50% if you're going by percentages. But like a 5 out of 10 for me means that I'm enjoying something about this movie. There is something I like about this movie. It's just not great. It's a meh movie. Another meh movie, in my opinion, is Final Destination 3. All right. So the opening scene is where everyone dies on this roller coaster. That thing was terrifying. It was a great scene because it was just so over the top insane. I enjoyed it a lot. They also kind of hinted at the idea of like the people who are supposed to die might try to kill each other. So that way they're safe or whatever. They hinted at it, but they never do anything with it. It's kind of like 3 throwaway lines and then one psycho character that dies instantly. So it was kind of a wasted concept. And then the ending, I think, also sucked. I'm not going to spoil it for those who want. I will. This is a 20-year-old movie. The main characters in these Final Destination movies, this happened in the 4th one, it happened in this one. They worked their butt off to avoid dying just to die in an unrelated accident months later, which kind of just undoes all of the progress of the movie. And it feels a bit like a waste of time, but it's entertaining. The action's fine, and there were some good concepts, so it's higher. Number 54 is Sonic the Hedgehog 3. This was the second movie I watched in 2025. The first one was The Shining. Sonic 3 had a lot going for it in the sense that Keanu Reeves was awesome as Shadow. Okay? Awesome as Shadow. Jim Carrey as both Robotniks, right? Both Eggman and his grandpa or whatever. He was good. And I think it was a good send-off to the character. And if this is Jim Carrey's final role in acting, supposedly, it was a good ending for him as well. The last 45 minutes of this movie is insane. It is peak. It is everything you want out of a Sonic video game in terms of action and adrenaline. Awesome. The first half was cringe, and the dialogue was geared towards kids, and it was cheesy, and it was them making bad puns and everything. And I was rolling my eyes. I genuinely would move this up to like an 8 out of 10 if the first half wasn't so bad. So, yeah. Number 53 is Turtles Forever. This was a TV movie. The 2003 cartoon of Ninja Turtles did a crossover movie with the original 1980s cartoon Ninja Turtles. And they're teaming up to stop their Shredders who have teamed up with each other. The dialogue was cheesy. I watched it as like a 5-year-old and I don't remember a lot from it. So I rewatched it, which really is the first time I've registered what's going on in this movie. The 80s people are insufferable in this movie. They are intentionally made more annoying and cheesy because the 2003 Turtles are edgy and serious and whatever else. And they wanted to show a bigger contrast between the two groups' personalities. And they hammed it up too much, and it made for cringy writing, a lot of things that made my eyes roll. But the plot was pretty good, and they do a cameo from the Mirage Comics original first ever Ninja Turtle version ever in comics, which I thought was really cool. And the action was good. So overall, like, I had a fun time with it. I'm a big Ninja Turtles guy, so it was fun. But no, the way they handled the 80s ones really does bring it down. Number 52 is The Road to El Dorado, a DreamWorks animated movie. Basically, these two guys are con men. They find a city of gold, and they decide to pretend to be their gods of this city, so that way they get all the riches, and then they're going to try and leave the city to be filthy rich in the real world, right? That's the premise. I like the characters. I like how the ending is on paper. They wrote the idea of they learn the value of honesty and friendship and appreciate each other more than the money, but they don't ever really sit and resonate with it. They kind of just stare at each other and are like, all right, I guess that's over. And then the movie the credits roll. And so it feels kind of cheap and lazy at the very end. I would have liked just an extra, like, 3 minutes of them reflecting, and then we'd be fine. Genuinely, sometimes 3 minutes is genuinely what changes the score of this movie, of any movie, really. For me, one scene could completely shift it, because every individual scene is a piece of a puzzle, and if it doesn't fit in that puzzle and it throws off the puzzle, then no, like, it's the score is going to get tanked. A very technically impressive movie, yes. For its time, for 2000, very technically impressive. Number 51 is The Emperor's New Groove. I understand why everyone loves Kronk. I understand the pull the lever Kronk jokes and everything. I thought that was going to be a bigger part of the movie because of all the jokes and references. The actual story is about Cusco and Pacha, I think his name is, right? And he gets turned into an alpaca or a llama or whatever, and he has to turn back into a human. And they go on this quest where he learns to not be a jerk and stuff. It's just a movie that I've seen done better. At its core, this just wasn't as entertaining as people said it was. But it was funny, and I did enjoy it quite a bit. And I understand why people love the jokes. And I think the restaurant sequence, where Kronk is the chef and he's taking all the orders and every character's around and they have their different objectives and everything, I thought that was very interesting. I thought that was a lot of fun. I thought it was very funny. Situational comedy is great. But overall, yeah, I feel like the whole, like, the main character is a jerk and softens up over time. Like, Cars did that trope better. Lightning McQueen was a jerk at the beginning of Cars. He becomes a well-rounded, mature person, or mature car. They did that story arc better in Cars than they did here with Cusco. So, yeah, it's lower. Number 50 is The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. Daffy Duck and Porky Pig learn about how aliens are planning to use a chewing gum to hypnotize the entire human race to enslave them, and they have to stop it. It's the most Looney Tunes on paper movie. It's classic Looney Tunes vibes, classic Looney Tunes dialogue and action sequences and whatever. My only thing is the plot is very basic. Like, it's something that I feel like I would have really loved at like 6 years old, but I'm 24 and I've matured past, wanting something so surface level in terms of message and the power of friendship. I've watched too many power of friendship movies for me to be like, wow, that was really good. It was fine. It was a decent movie. Your kid, if you ever have kids, your kids will probably like this movie. So yeah. Number 49 is Game of Death, a Bruce Lee action movie where he is a Hollywood man. He fakes his death because people are trying to assassinate him, so he can go undercover to take on the people that are trying to take him out. And the action sequences are really good. It's Bruce Lee. He was one of the greatest martial artists of all time. Like, it's not even up for debate, right? It's Bruce Lee. But the story, the first like 30 minutes set up the story, and I'm interested there. The last 30 minutes are fighting, and I'm interested there. The middle is just kind of you know? Not enough happens in the middle for me to really say that it stood out to me. And if Bruce Lee wasn't the main character and it was a different actor, this 6.5 score would probably be like a 5, because the story beyond that isn't that great. So 49. Number 48 is Back in Action. Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz are retired spies that have kids, but they get sucked back into unfinished missions where I guess one of their enemies decided to track them down because they had something from 15 years ago or whatever, right? And the kids have to struggle with the fact that their parents have been lying to them about their profession for their whole lives. And they all go on this global adventure to survive, pretty much, and not get killed by the bad guys, and then they have to fight the bad guys at the end. It was funny. The action was a little over the top, and these guys are older. Cameron Diaz and Jamie Foxx, they're not young and in their prime anymore. So it was kind of awkward, some of the fighting. But what really puts this up there are the kids. The kid actors and the characters of the kids are very relatable. Like, they behave very much the way kids in this generation would behave, especially about being lied to in their dialogue and how normally they sound with their conversations and stuff. They convinced me that it was a family, and that made the family aspect hit a little harder, which, made up for the kind of action. Number 47 is Final Destination 2. A lot of people would say that this is the best Final Destination. I disagree. But good concepts on how to, cheat the system. How to actually survive and get your happy ending. I thought that was very interesting. I don't like that this really, really pushed the trope of, unless you're, gonna survive, unless you're, one of the last 3 characters to survive in this movie, you get, 0 character development, and you exist purely just so we can do a goofy death with you. I think that's very, very, very frustrating, for one. I don't like when characters and people in movies turn into plot devices. I think that's really dumb. And that's what half of the cast of most of these Final Destination movies are. Plot devices. I agree with you, Kane. They killed off the main character from the original off screen, in between movies, because apparently they couldn't afford to keep him in the movie. In so many horror movies, there's just cannon fodder, which is lazy writing. I agree. I'm not a fan of it. There's another franchise of horror-ish that I'm getting into that is doing the same thing, and I'm not stoked about that. Number 46 is a Minecraft movie. Yeah, I watched a Minecraft movie. I mean, I loved Minecraft as a kid, man. I still play Minecraft. I was playing Minecraft before this stream. So, yeah, I had to watch a Minecraft movie, as ridiculous as this was. And it was a ridiculous movie, guys. Okay? It was a ridiculous movie. Jack Black literally existed just to spout and tell people who don't play Minecraft and the parents and whatever of kids who wanted to watch this movie. He existed purely just to tell people what the items in Minecraft did, which is hilarious. The character arcs for these 3 here, they were actually kind of decent, but not what I came here for. I wanted more Minecraft stuff. The Elytra sequence I thought was very good. I thought that was funny. I thought, the action and stuff was fun at the end for the most part. But I think they spent so much time trying to lay the foundation of how Minecraft works in this version, in this universe, that we didn't get enough Minecraft. They're supposedly making a sequel. Hopefully they do more with the mobs and with the items and with the game mechanics overall, instead of just exposition dumping, So, yeah. Number 45 is Bambi the Reckoning. This is another in the Twisted Childhood universe, aka the Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. This is the next one. Bambi goes on a killer rampage, flipping over cars, the size of like a truck, by the way, like a Ford F-150. Because some jerks kidnapped his kid. And CGI Bambi is really bad. The CGI on it is awful. It's so bad. But the story was probably the best because it didn't take itself seriously for one of these parody horror movies. While still doing decent, like they had better deaths that were a little more realistic, a little more idiotic. It felt good to watch some of the people die because they were jerks. But the reason this is as high as it is, because this should be really low. This should be really low. I'm not even kidding. The last 5 minutes of this movie completely pivot into an animal cruelty awareness PSA. And it was actually kind of sad. Like, this is the first time in any of these movies I felt any type of emotion besides thinking that it was funny. I left the theater and I was like, that was actually kind of profound at the end. For like a split second, it was profound and interesting and unique in that way. So it's up here. And of course, the guilty pleasure points comes up here. Number 44 is Zoolander. Ben Stiller is a male model who is selected to be brainwashed into murdering the prime minister of one of the countries in Asia that ends in J. Mongolia, Indonesia, or Malaysia. One of the three. So, in between that, he's trying to undo his brainwashing, and he hits bongs with Owen Wilson and has a giant orgy. It makes absolutely no sense. It was kind of funny. Will Ferrell's the villain, and he's hilarious in it. And yeah, the plot was pretty bad, but the humor elevated it to this point. So it's up here. Number 43 is Scream 2. This is the other franchise that I was saying where like some people they just exist to die, you know? First off, killing Randy. Oh. Killing Randy sucks. I hate that they killed Randy. But in all seriousness, this is a good follow-up to Scream. I really liked the first Scream. I thought it was a lot of fun. But the reveal of who Ghostface wasn't that... Like, there was a lot of suspense around the identity, and it just was underwhelming. It didn't hit nearly as hard as the reveal from the first movie. Especially since the first movie, the reveal is that it's multiple people, and you wouldn't expect that. Now you're expecting it to be multiple people, so it's like, whatever. Yeah. The opening was insane. Like, the fact that they made a movie in the Scream universe about the story of Scream, and it's, like, getting extra meta. Like, they satire themselves. And they satire other horror movies at the same time. That's what I love about these movies. The Scream movies are consistently meta and witty about it. They're intelligent. They're 2 for 2 so far from what I've seen. So it's up here. And it felt like a worthy addition to the Scream series because it also dealt with the trauma of the characters from the first one that survived. So I was like, okay, no, I can get into this for sure. I haven't watched Scream 3 or any of the sequels yet. But basically, after watching this second movie, I've liked both of the ones that I've seen. I'm going to watch them all. And I will probably be watching them all this year. especially since Scream 7 comes out soon. I don't think I'm going to watch Scream 7 in theaters. I don't think I'm going to watch 3, 4, 5, and 6 all in time, but there's a chance. Okay. Number 42 is the animated Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Last Straw movie. Every December, they just drop a Diary of a Wimpy Kid animated movie on Disney+. It's very accurate to the book. The voice actors are good. The messages behind them are very good for children. Like, this is a very good father-son bonding about lying to family members and the value of honesty and everything else. And the virtue of not depending on technology for things and learning to do things yourself and taking initiative and things like that. A lot of good messages here, and it was short and quick to the point. Did I watch the live action ones this year? No. I watched all the live action ones as a kid. I loved all 3 of the live action ones. I did not watch the long haul one, that reboot. I'm not even going to touch that. I'm terrified to, so no. But I was waiting for them to do The Last Straw. This is book 3 in the series, and they took parts of book 3 and put it into Dog Days, which is book 4, and they put that into the Dog Days movie. And I wanted to see The Last Straw get its time to shine, and so I'm glad it did. Number 41 is my favorite Final Destination movie, Final Destination 5. Oh, this was not released in the year 201. My gosh. 2011. Okay. This was released in 2011. They introduced in this movie the concept of if you kill someone, you will not be chased down by death. So Final Destination turned into a PvP death match. And I thought that was really interesting. It's a good twist on the concept. But then in the final 8 minutes of the movie, we get hit with the biggest plot twist I have seen in a while. My jaw, like, literally dropped. I could not close my mouth for the as the credits rolled. I just sat there, mouth wide open, that I was just like, oh my gosh, like, that was nuts. And yes, all the characters die in this movie anyways at the end, which is something that I don't like about these movies. But they did it in such a clever way with this twist that I don't even really care. That twist was awesome. So yeah, I definitely want to watch Bloodlines now. Definitely want to watch Bloodlines. Top 40. Superman 2 with Christopher Reeve. Superman and Lois Lane and their romance is at the heart of this movie, while they face General Zod and his other Kryptonian minions. This is a love story. This is a love story, but you have to figure out how to reveal Superman's identity, and Superman starts gaslighting the crap out of Lois as a result. It leads to some pretty funny things. Christopher Reeve is a great actor. Like, just the way he stands to shift between... There's a scene where he takes off the glasses of Clark Kent, and he fixes his posture, and suddenly he's Superman, just not in the suit. And it looks like a totally different person. He did such a good job with that. The plot was just rather basic, but the love story was really good, and I gotta give it its props. So, number 40. Number 39 is Spirited Away. This is some people's favorite movie ever, and this is something that I've been told I need to watch. I'm not an anime person. This is the only anime on the list. This is the first anime movie I've ever watched. But I've heard great things about Mr. Miyazaki. Heard about it from some friends and some co-workers and stuff. But I've also heard about it from Sasha. Sasha loved watching these types of movies, the Studio Ghibli movies and everything, as a kid. And we went to the movie museum in Los Angeles one time, and there was an exhibit entirely dedicated to Studio Ghibli and specifically Miyazaki's films. And she loved it. She was all over it. And that was when I was like, okay, maybe I start throwing these on the list. Maybe I give these a shot. See, Kane, you give it a 10 out of 10. I think a lot of people give it a 10 out of 10. I know I'm in the minority by giving it a 7. So things that I liked. I liked that they weren't afraid to get dark. You know, the animation made me uncomfortable, which was the point, and I appreciate that they didn't really want to pull their punches there. Um, I just felt really grossed out by the blob dirt monster thing in the spa in the sauna. I really didn't like that sequence. That was just me. I didn't really enjoy it. But the world building was epic. The concept was great. The whole vibe of the spirits and everything, I thought that was really special. That was very magical. Um, Genuinely, what loses it an entire like point and a half or 2 points is the reveal of how the girl is connected to the spirit guy that turned into the dragon. When they reveal that they're connected, just like, oh, well, here's this. It's like if they were to say, here's this plot thread that you have to guess and you can try and figure it out. But the answer is just not hinted at in the movie ever, and it just comes out of left field. I was so mad at that because I spent the whole movie waiting for that reveal just for it to be something that I would have never been able to figure out because it was never explicitly stated in the movie. That part made me mad. That part made me very mad. So, yeah, number 39. Number 38 is the live action Lilo and Stitch. I didn't expect to like this as much as I thought I did. They got the humor of Lilo and Stitch correct. They did well with the humor. But they cut Gantu, who's a great character, and they made Jumba a straight up villain, which is wrong. I think the problem for me, and the reason I can't put this higher, because there are people who put this a lot higher and actually really like this movie. The message of this one at the end, like, Nani gives Lilo up to be in foster care with the neighbor so she can go to college. And some people hate that. The whole message that they were trying to go for is that the community in Hawaii, they got each other's backs. We want to lift each other up and help each other out. That is completely accurate to what it's like to live back there. Absolutely. And I can say that because that's where I grew up. So, in that regard, I enjoyed that. However, the fact that it was taken incorrectly by so many other non-Hawaiian audiences goes to show how poorly written and poorly communicated that message was. It's easy for me and Sasha to understand it because we lived in that environment. But they needed to make that stronger to make it actually make sense. For people in Hawaii, it's automatic. You help each other out. So they made it automatic in the movie. But that made it unbelievable and unrealistic to everyone else who's watching. This was the opportunity to educate people about the culture of Hawaii, and they fumbled it, in my opinion. So, number 38. We are officially in the top half of movies right now. Number 37 is Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner. I thought this was going to be way higher. I really like this movie. But the ending is very slow. Basically, Rick Deckard, Harrison Ford, the main character, has to hunt down these replicants, which are like robots that look like humans and act like humans, and it's tough to identify them. So he has to track them down. And the part where he's doing detective work to track them down is very interesting. Very fun. But then when he actually finds them and he has to start picking them off one by one, it kind of slows down a bit for me. And I didn't really enjoy that part as much as I thought I would. But the mystery leading up to it, it was great. 7.5, I think is very fitting. If the action at the end was a little bit faster paced, probably an 8.5 or a 9, honestly. Number 36 is Dogman. So Dave Pilkey is a kid's author. He wrote Captain Underpants, Ricky Ricotta's Mighty Robot, Dumb Bunnies. That's the ones I grew up with. My brother grew up with Dogman. Same author. Different series, right? But because he grew up with Dogman, I ended up reading Dogman as well at like 12, 13 years old. And so I wanted to watch it because I was curious, right? This was very accurate to the book, but somehow they hit the emotion of like the family you choose versus the family that you were born with. That's a big part of the movie. They hit that way harder than I thought they would. which is even crazier because it's from the villain's perspective, and the villain's voiced by Pete Davidson, who normally does comedy things, and he's funny in this one, but like this is his best voice acting period. He voiced the Transformer, and he was just kind of in my opinion. He was good in this movie, and Dogman played a big role in that. And it was a good movie. It's a very sweet, emotional family movie. I would recommend it if you have like little kids or something, you know? No, literally, George and Harold writing Dogman was like wild, but I'm glad they did. Number 35 is Mickey 17. It's a dark comedy where Robert Pattinson's character, Mickey, uploads his consciousness into a computer, and his consciousness gets copied into a different cloned body of his so he can go and travel space consequence free. If he goes to an unsafe part of space and dies, they just re-upload his conscious into the next clone of his body. But one day, one of his clones is up with him at the same time. He is Mickey 17, and the clone, Mickey 18, is coexisting at the same time. And it creates this really weird like love triangle, love square thing. It gets into the concept of like how rich people look at poor people and take them for granted and treat them like dirt, because he's expendable in the eyes of everyone else because he'll just come back. He'll get reprinted in a new body, right? And so there's some good philosophical, moral dilemmas in this one. And I really enjoyed that. It also was funny and made light of it, so that way it wasn't this drama, this really dark, sad thing. It had a good vibe to it. And it was by the same guy that did Parasite, which I hadn't watched Parasite until about 2 weeks ago. I did watch Parasite this year. It will be on the 2026 list. I really did like Parasite. So, not surprised. I like this one too. Number 34 is Happy Gilmore 2. It did not need to exist, but they opened up by killing off the love interest from the first one, and they made this a story about overcoming grief in an Adam Sandler fashion. I actually really enjoyed it as a result. Like a lot. Fun references to the old one, funny cameos, fun golf action, and again, at the heart is a story about grief. So it actually felt like there was substance in the movie. And I gotta give it credit where credit's due. It was pretty fun. Number 33 is Limitless. You take a pill and it unlocks all facets of your brain. You basically become a super genius overnight. But you have to keep taking the drug, the pill, in order to keep your brain that active. But there are side effects that affect your physical body. And this guy, Bradley Cooper, the main character, he does it to basically become stupid rich, because why wouldn't you? Really successful. But he has had to kind of bend a few rules and make a few people upset. So those people try to kill him. And it becomes a giant chess match. There's a little bit of cat and mouse in there. And it is a lot of fun. There are just some sequences in the middle that it just jumps all over the place and it feels messy. But it's to show like how frantic and hectic his life is with his brain going at 500 miles an hour. It doesn't, like, it makes sense for the movie. It doesn't make it any easier to watch. You know what I'm saying? If they had made that a little easier to watch, this would probably be a lot higher as well. Number 32 is Thunderbolts, a Marvel movie. And the reveal at the end of this movie is that these are the new Avengers. I don't really care about this group. These Avengers, most of them don't really have significant superpowers. So I'm like, whatever. So in regards to the wider MCU, this movie didn't make me care. I'm gonna wash my hands. Okay. Um. Oh, I just realized I didn't even switch to the be right back screen. Whatever. Okay. So basically, this was a big mental health PSA, which I thought was really interesting. All these characters are traumatized and broken in their own way, and the villain isn't really a villain. He's just someone who's really depressed, and his depression triggers an apocalyptic event where a lot of people start dying. So they have to go into the mind of the antagonist and basically like have a big therapy session for a third act, which I thought was, it's refreshing that it's not just a big CGI fight. So I thought that was nice. But at the same time, I'm just not a fan of those types of things. I don't really like when it's like the power of friendship and my feelings and my emotions and everything. That's what's gonna save the day, and that's what's gonna fix everything. I This is the best version of that we've ever gotten, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean I still love it. Because I just don't. I just don't love it. That's the unfortunate truth. Brother Bear is number 31. I quite enjoyed Brother Bear. I had been told I needed to watch this for a while, and I'm glad I did. Now, I liked the songs. I liked the emotions. I liked that they weren't afraid to get dark and sad with the family themes of loss, like brothers dying and stuff like that. I really appreciated that they were going to be lighthearted at times and be kind of like Shrek and Donkey with the two bears, and then also be like, nah, we're going to get serious now because someone did die in this movie and we have to talk about that and handle it with respect. So I really enjoyed that. These moose were annoying. They were not funny. They literally tanked this 2.5 stars. Otherwise, this could have been a 10. Genuinely, this could have been a 10. Number 30 is Karate Kid Legends. This is definitely a hot take. A lot of people would probably put this one lower. For starters, this is the best fight scenes across any Karate Kid anything. Any of the original movies, the Jaden Smith movie, anything in Cobra Kai. These were the best fight scenes. It was a mix of karate and kung fu, which I thought was really unique, and it was an excuse to bring together Jackie Chan from the Jaden Smith movie and Ralph Macchio, the original Karate Kid. When they were together, it was very fun. However, there were like, this could have been such a good movie, genuinely, because the main character is dealing with trauma of the loss, the death of his brother, and how he witnessed it and couldn't fight back. Okay? Then he tries to help another family fight back in boxing, and it fails. So he just feels like a repeated failure, and the tournament that he's competing in is his way of overcoming that and not running and backing down from his failures, right? And I think there's something really powerful about that, especially as a ninja warrior. Like, you get back up from failure. That's the whole concept, right? But the problem is the entire tournament, in that part where the emotional payoff is, gets fast forwarded. The training, the preparation for it, the fighting until the very end. It's like just 3 big montages. And if they had just put more scenes in there with actual conversation and substance and development, this could have been a very good movie. Instead, it was a movie that I really enjoyed, but I can't put it higher than this. Number 29 is Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You get all that you want out of this. The personalities of Batman, Robin, and Batgirl interacting with the Ninja Turtles and their personalities, as well as Shredder and Ra's al Ghul working together. I thought great selections of villains, great work with different interactions. Heck, the Ninja Turtles are even in Gotham just fighting Penguin at one point without Batman. And I think that's really cool. Like, there's just, these guys maximized how to use a crossover. Now, the plot was a little just, like at one point, Batman gets turned into a mutant bat by the mutagen that mutated the Ninja Turtles. And I was just like, okay, that part was kind of meh. Like, that brought it down some points, because I'm not looking for monster fights. I want to see Batman be Batman with the Ninja Turtles, not Batman as a bat fight the Ninja Turtles. You know, like I don't know. That's just me. But still a very good superhero crossover. Number 28 was Wicked for Good. Guys, I'm so sad about this one because the first Wicked was my number one movie of 2024. I loved the first Wicked. I had never seen the Broadway musical. Sasha did. And this was Sasha's like favorite show, period. This is Sasha's favorite anything. She has been raving about the fact that Wicked was getting 2 movies since it was announced years ago, right? Especially, she's also an Ariana Grande fan, so Ariana Grande being Glinda is, you know, another big pro for her. When I saw the first Wicked, I was genuinely excited. I was like, I understand why you love it so much. I loved Wicked. Wicked 1 is like a 10 out of 10, a 9.5 at the lowest. And this one was unfortunately not that good. It took away some of the emotional beats in favor of things that the Broadway show did. And they geared this specific movie, it felt like, more towards Broadway than it did for everybody. We already have the Broadway version. And having Broadway humor to break the tension and shift the emotions out of certain scenes didn't fit with me too much. I didn't love it in that regard. I did think the music was still good. The actors, especially, you know, Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, and Jonathan Bailey as Fiero, I think the 3 of them were awesome. They did a great job. So I'm not overall dissatisfied with it. Now, the problem that I have is that this movie is like basically what happened behind the scenes of Wizard of Oz. What were the characters that weren't with Dorothy? What were they doing? You know? And that part was really cool until they had to actually intersect with Wizard of Oz. It's like Wicked and Wizard of Oz are 2 different storylines going on, but then they were like, well, this is the Wicked Witch from Wizard of Oz, so we kind of have to do this. We kind of have to do that. We kind of have to do this. And it felt really sloppy. Like the reasonings for certain things get really sloppy. They do a scene where the Cowardly Lion explains why he's cowardly. And it is one of the dumbest explanations for anything ever. Like, the whole thing was, I was a caged animal as a cub. The Wicked Witch took me out of my cage and freed me into the wild. Now, because I can't fight my own battles, I think she's evil. Wouldn't releasing you into the wild make you more independent and, like, literally make you not a coward? Like, wouldn't you have to figure it out on your own? Things like that. And they did that a lot. They kind of did that with the Tin Man. I'm not going to talk about the Scarecrow because that is like a whole reveal. It was really sloppy connecting it to Wizard of Oz. And if they had just done It's Just Wicked, I think it would have been truly awesome. Novocaine is number 27. Jack Quaid plays Nathan Kane, a man who has a medical condition where he cannot feel pain. Now, medically, these things still happen to him. Like, if he burns himself, his body is still burned and needs to get treated, but he can't feel it. Now, a girl that he likes gets kidnapped by bank robbers when the bank that they work at gets robbed. And so he decides, when the cops aren't going to help him, he decides that he's going to go save her because he loves her. Okay? And because he doesn't feel pain, this man just becomes a tank. He just starts going for different things. He doesn't know how to fight, but he knows that he can take the hits. And because of that, they do a lot with the action in a very creative way. Because they're like, well, he can't get hurt, so yeah, he's going to put his hand in a deep fryer and deep fry his hand to grab a knife that fell in there, so then he can use the knife to stab his opponent. Like, things like that. Funny, creative, witty, intelligent use of the condition, because then he still has to go get medically checked afterwards. So it's like, I appreciated this one. I had a lot of fun with this one. So it was a good time. Some of it was a little over the top, and it got goofy and kind of whatever. So that wasn't great, but it was very minor in regards to how much it made the movie worse, it was still a good movie. I enjoyed it. I think you guys would also find this to be enjoyable. Number 26 is a very Jonas Christmas movie. This is exactly what it sounds like. The Jonas Brothers are doing a Christmas movie. They need to get back to New York by Christmas to spend it with their families. And they just get very meta about it. It is not at all what I expected. It is a Christmas comedy. A lot of celebrities cameo in different ways. They get meta and they make fun of themselves. They make fun of the industry. They have their own original songs. It's very fun. There's a heartfelt, like, brotherly bonding storyline throughout the whole thing. Santa's in it, and he has magic powers to inconvenience them, to delay their trip until they make up like brothers. And yeah, it was funny. It was actually very entertaining. Sasha and I found ourselves laughing at a lot of it. So, would recommend it, honestly. Good Christmas movie. Number 20. Oh, top 25. Here we are. Father of the Bride. Basically, Steve Martin is the dad. His daughter is getting married. He's struggling with the fact that his little girl is now growing up, becoming a woman, leaving the home, and getting married. It is, as the poster says at the bottom, a comedy about letting go. It is very funny. It's very realistic. Like, you would assume that people would feel this way, and this is just how they would act on those impulses, act on those thoughts of, I hate that my kid's growing up, right? And it led to some funny scenarios, funny dialogue, good jokes. But when it was time to get emotional, oh my gosh, it got emotional. It got really emotional. It hit me in the feels. And I think, if I were a dad or something, I would probably relate to this more. But I didn't really connect with the emotional side of things as much. But it was still very much there, and I really did enjoy it. Definitely would recommend it if you haven't watched it yet. Number 24 is Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. This is the second Pirates movie. I had only ever watched the first one. I was not sure what to expect from these movies. I never really understood, because I had only watched one, I liked the first one. But I never understood why people were like, these Pirates movies, man, they're so unique and so fresh and so fun. Now I get it. There's 5 different people in the same crew with 5 different objectives as to why they want the treasure, or why they want this artifact, or why they want this ship. And they're all trying to swindle each other. And it's so fun watching them try to outsmart each other. And then that doesn't work, they start fighting, and the action sequences are crazy. Absolutely over the top bonkers. And it's hilarious. And the dialogue in between that as well is funny. And it's smart. And they hit perfectly for the character arcs, especially for those of Jack Sparrow, Elizabeth Swann, and Will Turner. I really enjoyed this movie. I liked it better than the first one. And I did watch the third one because this one ended on a cliffhanger, and I needed to watch the third one to wrap up the cliffhanger. And for those who have been here the whole stream, the third Pirates movie has not been revealed on this list yet, which means it is higher than this one. Number 23 is Godzilla -1. This one was huge. It was a big story about overcoming trauma and facing down your demons, confronting them, instead of letting them rule your life in fear and cowardice and sadness. And behind that was also a great family story with romance and, an adorable little kid that you just want her to be safe the whole time. Basically, the main character is a kamikaze pilot in World War II who didn't kamikaze. So he's nationally shamed when he reveals that, because they're like, you didn't die for this country. Are we not valuable enough to you? And now Godzilla comes in and he starts destroying Japan. And this pilot has to face down his demons of running away from things in order to fight Godzilla of all people. The ending, I think, is the only reason this is lower. They beat Godzilla. Godzilla never dies, though. In any version of Godzilla, he never dies. This would have been the one time I would have been okay with him dying. because the emotional payoff of this movie is so rewarding. You should still watch it, even though I told you how it ends. You should still watch it because it is such a great emotional journey. But the fact that Godzilla is still alive cheapens it for me personally. They are doing a sequel. It is coming out this year. Yeah, like you just said, Peaglin. Godzilla Minus Zero is coming out this year. I am very excited to watch it. I'm hoping that it justifies more of like the last thing I want it to do is I don't want it to undo the character development of the main character and his family. They're at a spot where they can have closure. I want them to have that closure. I don't want the trauma to just reopen and we're redoing the same movie. You know? That's my only hope for the sequel. Because if it does anything besides that, I will probably really like the sequel. Just as much, if not more, than I like this one. Number 22 is the new adaptation of Frankenstein, with Oscar Isaac playing Dr. Frankenstein and Jacob Elordi playing the monster, who I think he just got nominated for the Oscars for Best Supporting Actor for being Frankenstein's monster. So good for him. Upon reading this, so Sasha and I love Oscar Isaac. He's a great actor. He's Latino. He's great. Like we're happy. We're rooting for him in any movie that he's in. Because of that, I read the Frankenstein book. Rephrase, I reread Frankenstein because I read it in college. I didn't remember it much because it was during COVID. COVID brain's a real thing. I reread the book this year before the movie, and I was like, dang, it's a good book. This captures the essence of the book, kind of. And that's why it's lower. Because the whole thing about the book is, you know, it's supposed to challenge the message of who's the real monster. Is it the actual monster that murders people and looks disgusting and is an abomination of human nature because he's created from he's a zombie. He's a stitched together from parts of different people and now is alive. Like he's not supposed to exist. Is he the real monster, or is it the man who created him out of hubris and greed and then abandoned him, right? That's supposed to be like the nuance of the story of Frankenstein. It's a super intriguing concept. And I love that about the story. The problem that I have with this one is that they don't make the monster really bad. In the book, they make the monster a borderline serial killer out of revenge, and his motivations, you feel, are justified because the doctor sucks. He's awful, right? In this movie, they kind of just make the doctor awful, so it kind of removes that message of who's the real monster. They kind of just tell you who the monster is. And that's not as enjoyable in my opinion. I like the back and forth, and there was less back and forth this time. And yeah, that's just me personally. I would have preferred the monster to be more violent, because then we have a real philosophical discussion. Instead, they made the monster a victim, a complete victim. Whereas in the book, he's like a victim in some circumstances, but he's also guilty in others because he is murdering a lot of people in cold blood, you know? In this one, yeah, not so much. But it is a good movie, and I'm happy that Jacob Elordi, who was the monster, I'm glad he got nominated for an Oscar for this one. Number 21 is Treasure Planet. Disney attempting to do a different type of movie with their animation, not a princess movie. I really love this movie. This was a great adventure. They're space pirates, okay? They're intergalactic pirates that search for treasure and swindle each other. Are you kidding me? Like, that sounds awesome, and it was awesome. It was a great story. Unfortunately, this came out in 2002. It came out with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, Harry Potter, and I think Chamber of Secrets. Like, there were just so many other big movies that were coming out that this made no money and it got no sequel. They were even going to do a TV show at one point, and that didn't even happen, which is really sad. Because it's a great world. The characters were awesome. The reason it's like an 8 is because as great as it is rather basic from a storytelling standpoint. This didn't do anything new for the genre, you know? It didn't really need to. But if it did something new for the genre, it would be a 10 out of 10 personally. So that's just me. Love this movie. If you haven't watched it, underrated gem from Disney for sure. Number 20 is the original Alien. I think this movie might be the most screwed over movie on the list. I loved Alien. I think Alien is great, and I understand why Alien became such a cult classic, why they're still making Alien movies and shows, why it's got as big of a fan base as it does. It's a good movie. Now, the problem for me is I knew a lot of the major twists, you know? The only real twist that they did, I guess, is that Sigourney Weaver, her character Ripley, is the hero of the story. They did this whole thing in the like first 2/3 of the movie where the captain of the ship is not her. She's just the one with common sense, right? She's the skeptic. And because it's supposed to be like a horror-ish movie, there's horror elements. The skeptic is typically the one that dies halfway through the movie because they're not cooperating with the team enough, right? And they're trying to put you in that false sense of security. And then the captain of the ship gets killed, and Sigourney Weaver, with the common sense, is the hero of the story and the one that survives. That's a really nice twist on the horror stuff, and it's well shot, and the xenomorph is terrifying. I think it's a great movie. I think for me, it didn't hit as hard because I knew Sigourney Weaver was the hero of Alien. This franchise has been around since 1979. People talk about it enough. It's a classic, so I knew that. So because I knew what the major twist of it was, what the switch up of the movie was, it just didn't hit as hard for me. And I think if I knew nothing, I could probably see this in like the top 10, top 5, genuinely. But I love this movie. I am very much looking forward to watching the sequel. I'm very much looking forward to watching the sequel. So Aliens is definitely happening this year. Number 19 is The Mitchells versus the Machines, a animated movie about a family who has to deal with a tech corporation that has used all of their devices to do a robot takeover of the world. But the family is dysfunctional, they are all totally different, and they don't appreciate each other, so they have to learn to embrace each other's differences and get along and understand that they're growing up as well in order to work together to fight an army of robots. It is wild. It is hilarious. The action is great. The animation is very unique. It's funny. It's a very well-rounded, wholesome action family adventure movie. I would recommend it to anyone who has a family with like of any age really. Teens would love it. Kids would love it. Parents will enjoy something about it for sure. You know, like it's really really solid. Number 18 is The Gray Man. This is probably the one that should be lower on the list, but the fact of the matter is, it's hilarious. This is just, you could argue that this is a generic action movie, except for the fact that the sauce is all over this movie. The action is great. The writing is funny. It's witty. It's smart. There's a sequence where Ryan Gosling, who's the main character, is handcuffed to a bench in a public park, and everyone comes in to kill him. And they all start firing, and then other people start shooting at each other, and stuff starts exploding. And Chris Evans is the main villain, and he's sitting in his control room, and he just says, "Can we start shooting at the guy who is handcuffed to the effing bench?" And it's just the most, like, duh thing, you know? Like that's what everyone's thinking in the audience. You're like, you mean to tell me that Ryan Gosling has been handcuffed to the bench this whole time and he hasn't been shot at all, right? That's dumb. And they acknowledge that, and they make it a joke, and they make it like they do that throughout the whole movie, which makes it so much more bearable as an action movie. On top of that, there's still some solid emotional stakes. It gets very intense at the end, and great fights. So it's really entertaining, really entertaining. And it's the most I've enjoyed this type of action movie since the John Wick franchise. I love the John Wick movies, so I'm glad this happened. Number 17 is a movie I wanted to watch forever. It's weird. Weird, as in the Weird Al Yankovic story. This is literally about the life of Weird Al Yankovic. But not really. You could see here I put the genre as parody with a question mark. And that's because this is not accurate to Weird Al's life. Weird Al does parody music. We know this. He takes a hit song, he puts his own lyrics over it, he puts an accordion beat over it, and it's hilarious, and he makes it funny, right? He did that by making fun of movies like Bohemian Rhapsody, making fun of movies like Rocketman, making fun of biopics about famous musicians. He said, I'm going to make one about my life, and I'm going to make it an absolute joke. It is so funny. Guys, at one point, he marries Madonna and then kills Pablo Escobar and takes over the Mexican cartel. Obviously, this did not happen in real life, but it just gets so ridiculous, and they do it on purpose to make fun of how Hollywood movies, like how biopics like Bohemian Rhapsody, glorify the artist to be this like amazing human being. And he's fully making fun of that. But at the same time, the part that gets very real is about the relationship between him and his father. And it gets very emotional in that regard. And I really liked it. It was a funny movie. It had good emotional moments. And Weird Al had some funny songs in there. And the songs being in there was awesome. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 deserved to be that far back because the first half sucked. The first half sucked, Nathan. The second half was peak. It really was. But the first half, no. Number 16 is Mallrats. This is a comedy by Kevin Smith. If you don't know about Kevin Smith's stuff, definitely start with Clerks. He's a very funny, witty guy. Basically, every movie I've seen of his takes place in a day. And these guys, you know, one of the guys, his girlfriend dumps him, and his friend decides, let's go to the mall, let's get your mind off of it, let's have a day at the mall where we do whatever. And shenanigans happen. Exes start to show up. Stan Lee has a whole cameo where he does an inspirational speech. People are fighting each other. There is a dating game show. Okay? And that's the entire final act. And it's their way of trying to like wrap up the love stories in the movie. It's funny. All of the funny, like there's running jokes throughout the movie that they're kind of just laying bricks to set up the foundation. And the final like 30 minutes is just the full payoff. Every running joke is referenced and hits, and it is just the funniest ending to a movie I've seen in a while. It's great. Would recommend this one, totally. It's for free on Amazon Prime, so definitely check it out. Nathan, the Minecraft movie is ahead of Sonic 3 because number 1, I like Minecraft more than Sonic. Number 2, I found Minecraft to be funnier than Sonic. And number 3, Minecraft. Chicken Jockey. I am Steve. There we go. Number 15 is The Wild Robot. I really thought this would be in the top 10. I remember seeing the trailers, and everyone who saw the trailers was like, this movie's going to make us cry, right? This is going to be such a sad movie. And I watched the movie because I was interested in it, and I was like, man, I'm fine. Like, it's a good movie. It's a very good movie, and I'm really enjoying this. I don't get why anyone would cry at this. It's not emotional. And then the last 20 minutes go, and my face just starts... I didn't even realize that there were tears rolling down my face. I just was watching... I was watching this movie, and as the final, like, 20 minutes hit, tears just started automatically coming down my face. Not even on... No, I wasn't even like, oh, I feel it. No, it just boom. And I was like, oh my gosh, the emotion of this just, like, hit me like a train. It was wild. Pun intended. Yeah, this was a great movie. I just like the other ones a little bit more. Case in point, I did enjoy Gladiator 2. I didn't think I would enjoy it this much, though. The first Gladiator is a classic. Obviously, the first Gladiator is better. But they knew that they needed to do more than just repeat the same plot as Gladiator 1. They did repeat the plot of Gladiator 1, but with more wrinkles now. Because his stepfather is Pedro Pascal. But Denzel Washington's using them all like pawns, and he's trying to lead a resistance against these guys, and he's trying to manipulate these guys. There's so many more things happening behind the scenes that make it not just a story about sheer will and revenge. It is a family story, it's a political drama, and it gets more political about it. Like, they lean into that angle more than they did in the first one, in my opinion. And I think that's what they needed to do to keep the movie fresh. And they did that. So I really enjoyed it. The first one is obviously better. I don't think they're ever going to beat the first one. Supposedly they're making a third. I don't think they should. I think 2 is the right place to end this series. Number 13 is Americana. This is like a modernized Western. It's a crime movie where pretty much everyone is fighting over this Native American coat that is like an artifact for a specific tribe, but some people want to get it for the money. Some people want to get it to be embraced by the Native Americans, even though they're not Native American. And it gets really, really deep on trauma, generational trauma, cultural trauma, and most importantly to me, how entitled people feel to own another culture, another person's culture, and why that might be. That's some really deep stuff there. And coming from Hawaii, I mean, let me give you all a history lesson, okay? Hawaii was illegally taken as a state. There was an attack that the president did not sign off on, and a general went and attacked Hawaii anyways, and forced the queen to stay in her palace until she decided to surrender. And at some point, she was going to starve to death, and the other people in Hawaii were going to suffer, so she surrendered. There is no official document saying that Hawaii is a state. It has just been made a state. The general who made the attack was actually fired by the president after he made the attack. Okay? So, now here we are. We fast forward decades later, and Hawaii is being completely culturally appropriated by white people, by Americans, by tourists, by people who come in and think that it's just palm trees and flower lays and grass skirts for some reason, and that we all live in huts or something dumb like that, and that we row our boats to go to school or some dumb crap like that. And they fully appropriate the culture. And it's offensive, and it's demeaning, and it's entitled, and it's really sad. So Americana being about that, even if it's not about Hawaii, it's about Native Americans, right? It hit very hard for me. It hit very hard for me. On the other hand, they also play into the Cowboys versus Indians side of things, which, you know, the old school trope, the old school style of movie. There's some good references to that. The characters are very compelling. The actors do a good job. There's a good love story in there. And they make it modernized. You know that this takes place in the 21st century because it feels like it takes place in the 21st century. But it also feels like an old school Western. It's a great blending of different styles. Definitely watch this movie. Number 12 is the Fantastic Four First Steps. This is where my biases definitely start to show. I love the Fantastic Four. I grew up reading Fantastic Four comics and watching the Fantastic Four cartoon from the 90s on Saturday morning cartoons. The Fantastic Four has not been done proper justice in a movie, I think, ever. The 2005 movie was fine, but it wasn't great. This is the first time where I think it's great, because the Fantastic Four is not just people with powers who fight Doctor Doom. They're a family. They work best together when they're a team. They make family-based decisions. They interact because these guys are siblings. These guys are married. These guys are best friends from childhood. They all have learned to work together as a unit, right? On top of that, they're super geniuses. They're astronauts. They travel through space and time regularly. They're inventing new devices for teleportation and space travel and understanding new languages daily. She's a political ambassador. That's like a whole other part of her identity and career. And they covered all of those bases. Everything that makes the Fantastic Four cool is in this movie. They're flying through a black hole being chased by the Silver Surfer, and they're trying to use physics to figure out how to shoot a laser at the Silver Surfer when it doesn't go in a straight line because the wormhole, the black hole, is swirling. Like, that part was so sick. On top of that, she is pregnant in this movie, and they have to deal with a whole new layer of becoming parents, dealing with a family, growing the family, while a villain is trying to steal him. It's such a fun movie. It is a fun movie. Is it flawed? Absolutely. I'm not going to disagree that this is flawed. But as someone who is waiting for this specific group of superheroes to be done justice, I am so happy with this movie. I put it at number 12. Objectively speaking, this is not a 9 out of 10 movie, but to me, it is, and that's why it's this high. Number 11 is Batman, Mask of the Phantasm. It is an animated Batman movie that ties into Batman the Animated Series from the 90s, which is one of the greatest animated series of all time. Need to take a breath. This goes into great detail about Batman and his love life and how he can balance being himself and still having room for more in his personal life. And it becomes a tragic romance, and it's a very exciting story because of that. And it's got a good plot twist on who the Phantasm, the villain, actually is. And I'm glad they did the romance thing without Catwoman, because I feel like I've seen so much of that. It's been done to death. I'm glad it was different, you know? I really like this one. If you're not, like, huge on Batman or, like, animated cartoon movies and stuff like that, I guess don't watch it, but it is a very good story. There's a lot to appreciate about this one. Number 10 is the original Terminator movie. I remember watching part of this in the movie theater because growing up, we didn't really do too many previews at the movie theater in Hawaii. We were watching a whole other movie and then it would just randomly stop. And then when we would get to the actual movie we paid to watch, I remember sitting in, it was Star Wars The Force Awakens, and I was there for the premiere night. And I was super excited. But the movie that they were playing while people were buying popcorn and using the bathroom and getting ready was Terminator. And I didn't get to finish it because then they cut it off, they played a couple trailers, and then we watched Star Wars, which was awesome. Star Wars The Force Awakens in theaters, watching it on premiere night, is the best movie theater experience I've ever had. That's a whole other story for another time. I was invested in Terminator, and then it stopped because we had to watch Star Wars, and I'm not complaining about that. But I definitely was like, man, I should actually watch this movie. I completely understand why Terminator is a cult classic, similar to Alien. I get the hype. It's a great movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger is very intimidating as the Terminator. The story and the concept, the time travel aspect of it is very good. The love story part is the only reason it's down half a point. I needed just a little more time with it because it really did feel like at one point the people who were in love just randomly started making out. It kind of felt out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere, but it didn't feel earned. It needed more. So if they did more, I'd be fine with it. But at the same time, I'm very excited to watch the sequels. I've heard Terminator 2 is one of the best action movies of all time. So I'm pretty stoked to watch it. If it's as good as the first one or better than the first one, it's going to be a banger. We've officially hit the top 10 though. Number 9, Whiplash. Oh my gosh. I don't know what took so long for me to watch this movie. Because I'm not even a band kid anymore. I should have watched this when I was a band kid. You know? Whiplash is about becoming great. What it means to become great. What you have to sacrifice to become great. But also, two different perspectives on greatness. What the mentor demands from greatness and what the student wants to be great. And how far they're willing to go. They're toxic in their own way. They are damaging themselves and damaging each other mentally and like philosophically, psychologically. They are destroying each other throughout this entire movie. It's a horrible relationship for a payoff that does happen in the end of the movie where they acknowledge each other's greatness. And it really led to like just such a great payoff. It's the first 10 out of 10 on this list. I really do enjoy this movie. It's awesome. It's great. It's probably not one of like my all-time favorite movies, but it is really, really freaking good. Definitely watch it, especially if you do music in any capacity. Like Nathan, if you're in the chat, I know you drum, watch this movie. Number 8 is Sinners, dude. I really thought Sinners was going to stay in like the top 3. It was in the top 3 for a long time. Sinners should absolutely win Best Picture this year at the Oscars. If it doesn't, I'm going to be pretty mad. It's a very good movie. Um, this is a story about vampires, but coincidentally, all the vampires are white, and all the people they're infecting are black. And they go very deep into the racial undertones of old America. You know, when the KKK was most prominent, and when there were establishments for white people and establishments for black people, and how that tension existed at that time. And they do that in a way by getting a little bit into some crime, a little bit into some hustling, a little bit into the culture of like how black people celebrated in places that they felt safe. And they do so with the music sequence, right? And it references music from the past to music to today, and it goes through all decades, all genres. There's rock, there's jazz, there's folk, there's pop, there's all this other stuff in there. There's African tribal music in it. That sequence is one of the greatest scenes of any movie I've seen ever. It is still in my brain. It's a core memory now at this point. It's truly awesome, and the story itself is great. The action is awesome. The emotions between the main characters is really special. And yeah, no, if you haven't watched Sinners, please watch Sinners. It is goated. Number 7 is Ex Machina. It's a psychological thriller. There's only like 4 characters in this. And you realize soon it becomes like a chess match between all 4 of these characters. They all have their own angle, they all have their own motivations, and you're trying to figure out who's telling the truth and who's lying throughout the entire thing. The fact that they did that in one location, they're in one house with 4 characters, and 2 of them are robots. It's so intriguing. I can't state enough how exciting this actually was. Really, really, really invested in the characters' arcs and their growth, and you want happy endings for them. Not all of them are going to get happy endings, and that's the fun part about this. Number 6 is Elio. I was not expecting to like Elio as much as I did. This is one of my new favorite Pixar movies. It's up there. It's very high up there, actually. It's a shame that they didn't really promote this at all. It did get nominated for Best Animated Picture recently, in like a few days ago when they did Oscar nominations, and it deserves the nomination. It's a good movie. Essentially, this boy, his parents died, and he is grieving, and he feels like an outcast. He feels misunderstood by everyone. There's some speculation online that he is slightly autistic or something, and that he's supposed to be, a figurehead for children on the spectrum, right? They never confirmed that. I can see where they're coming from with that. He feels like an outcast. He feels like he doesn't belong. So he tries to get abducted by aliens. And he gets abducted by aliens, but they think that he's the ruler of Earth. And he gets thrown into like a galactic war/conflict. And he learns about the value of family. And the family tones of this actually hit really hard, to where I cried like a good amount at this movie, and I was not expecting to cry. I don't cry a lot at movies, but when it gets me. And at first, when I finished the movie, okay, and this is what I was like, am I just hyping this up too much? I talked to my brother about it. My brother is 5 years younger than me. We like similar movies. We definitely have similar taste, but we do have some differences when it comes to animated movies, when it comes to emotional type movies. We like our emotions to come from different styles of movies. I told him, I think you will like this movie a lot. I think there's a chance you will cry. Okay, there's a chance. And he just said, it's that good? I said, it's that good. In my opinion, it's that good. And we had to fly to Arizona to go visit our sister. So we're on the plane. He's watching it on the plane. He's at like the final 15 minutes. So I just lean over and I'm watching him watch it. He puts the phone down when the credits roll, and he looks at me, and there are tears welling up in his eyes, and he goes, yeah, that was really good. Like, it was as good as you said. And so I know I'm not tripping. It's a good movie. If you haven't watched it, watch it. It's on Disney+. It's solid. Number 5 is Father of the Bride Part 2. This is when I said, like, if I related to the first movie a bit more, I would probably put it way higher. I relate to this movie, which is insane because I'm not a father. I don't have kids. My kids are not old enough to get married or move out or whatever. Here's the crazy part, okay? The premise of this movie is nuts. Steve Martin's character once again has to deal with change. His daughter's married, he's dealt with that change. Now his daughter is having a baby. Okay? He has to deal with the concept of being a grandpa, his daughter being a mother, and all this other stuff, right? Then he gets his wife pregnant, and his wife and his daughter are pregnant at the same time. And it leads to some very funny comedy. It leads to some funny midlife crises. It was very enjoyable. So there was that. And then the ending is about shifting life changes. Someone moves away. And as someone who has moved a lot recently into new chapters of life and all this other stuff, the send-off that they had, the ending where the people left and they had their final farewell, that made me cry. It was such a good emotional moment. It was so validating. It was so touching. And everything before that was as good, if not better, than the first movie, which was already in the top 25 and was already like an 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10, something like that. So yeah, this is a 10 out of 10, top 5 of my year. I love this movie. Number 4 is Caught Stealing. This is a crime movie about learning to not run away from your problems, because when you do, more negative consequences pile up and more people get negatively affected. The results of running away from these problems, which Austin Butler's character does, he's the main character, a lot of plot twists on who is good, who is bad, and a lot of plot twists on who dies. There are some people, when I watched the trailers, I was like, oh, they're going to just live through the whole thing and they're going to live happily ever after in the end. That is not the case. People who I thought were friends were not friends. People who I thought were enemies were not enemies. And people who I thought were safe in this movie were not safe. And because of that, it kept me on my toes the whole time. The dialogue was witty. It was funny. The action was good. And again, the message is very solid. So, I really did like the ending. Yes, Peaglin. Really liked the ending. So yeah, I'm going to put this in my top 5. Objectively, I like Sinners. I think Sinners is a better movie objectively, but I had a little more fun with this one. I'm going to put this one top 4. Number 3. Oh, I love my top 3. Number 3 is Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. This is the 3rd Pirates movie in the franchise, and in my opinion, this is one of the best endings to a trilogy ever. It wraps up satisfyingly the cliffhanger from the second movie. I was very happy with it. And then they get right back into the action of the chaos of pirates. Everyone has their angle. Everyone's politicking. Everyone's plotting and scheming, fighting, stealing, whatever else they got to do. And I was like, this is, in terms of doing the same thing again as the second one, they're doing it just as well as the second one. I really enjoyed it. But what really put this as high as it is the emotional moments that showed that the characters have grown throughout these 3 movies. Jack Sparrow being the most selfless he's ever been in this movie is genuinely amazing writing. Elizabeth Swann becoming the Pirate King, the ruler of all pirates, after being the typical damsel in distress at first, or being assumed as that, and now she's the ruler of all pirates, was amazing. And then, at the very end, Will Turner taking the sacrifice to become the captain of the Flying Dutchman, leading to the tragic love story of him and Elizabeth Swann. It was nuts. It was so crazy. It's such a tragic ending, and I love a bit of happy tragedy. They get their happy ending. They are together for a bit, but now they can only see each other once every 10 years. That's nuts. That's crazy. And it has my favorite scene, one of my favorite scenes in a movie. I said the Sinners music scene is one of my new favorite scenes in a movie. That's true. My other new favorite scene in a movie, period, is when Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann are getting married. They're fighting other pirates on the ship, right? And Captain Barbossa is like doing the, reverend stuff to make them take their vows and everything. And it is one of the greatest action scenes and romance scenes I've seen, period. It was such a beautiful movie. It was a great movie. I do still need to watch 4 and 5. I've heard they're not as good as the original 3, but they're still fun. I don't really care. I'm going to watch them. I'm invested in this. I've liked all 3 of the movies I've seen from this franchise, and I'm going to keep watching them. Number 2 is 7. Oh my gosh. 7 is crazy. This is a crime, murder mystery. They're trying to figure out this serial killer, okay? And Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, they act their butts off. Their characters are really well written, and they deliver on their performances. The mystery comes step by step at great times, because just when I feel like, oh, now would be a really good time to get a clue, otherwise it's really slow, we get a new clue. And it's a great clue, and it gets us thinking, and it shifts our perspective on the whole mystery. And then we get to an ethical, moral dilemma. At the very end, the last act, when they catch the killer, right? They get to what the motivation of the killer is, and it's to create this philosophical dilemma. And this, it's supposed to be a commentary on human nature, and the commentary on human nature is very profound. You should absolutely watch it if you haven't already. It gives us an iconic line as well. What's in the box? That's from this movie. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's a great movie. Definitely watch it. I'm going to be disappointed with 4 and 5. We'll see. We'll see. Time will tell. Oh, any guesses on what my number 1 movie of 2025 is before we move on? This is so I can drink water. Some of you might remember me getting very excited about this movie and glazing this movie a lot. If you're on the Discord server, you would know. K-pop Demon Hunters. Actually haven't watched K-pop Demon Hunters. Don't know if I'm going to. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, here we go. My favorite movie that I watched in 2025, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, is the 2025 Superman movie. 7 is one of my favorite movies ever. Dude, it's a great movie. It's a great movie. K-pop Demon Hunters. I've heard K-pop Demon Hunters is good. But the real number 1 here, Superman. I loved Superman. My gosh. Okay. There's so many layers to this. There's so many layers to this. Is this an objectively perfect movie or anything? No. There's flaws. People have pointed out the flaws. I agree with the flaws. I just don't care. This movie was so amazing. It was so beautiful. Number 1, okay? As a DC fan, the DC universe of movies and shows and everything, they tried to keep up with Marvel. It was a horrible strategy. Superman is their first movie to reboot it. They're starting from scratch with Superman and Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad and Blue Beetle. And it's very good stuff there. And Creature Commandos. This movie, I think, was a great step in the right direction for DC. And as someone who prefers DC comics and DC cartoons and DC animated movies over Marvel, I'm so glad that there's a DC movie that I can be happy about. Number 2, Superman has become my favorite superhero. It used to be Spider-Man as a kid, but as I grew up, I realized that Superman is a much more compelling character. The idea that Superman is boring because he's overpowered is stupid. It's wrong. And the idea of making him evil to make it interesting is also stupid and dumb and a waste. Superman's whole thing is that he consistently chooses to do the right thing, even though he has all of the capabilities, the power, and the reason, because he's alienated from the rest of the world and hated by people. He has all the reason to crash out and destroy the world and all the means to do so, and he chooses to do good every single time. And this movie got that right. They did everything right about capturing the essence of Superman, and it made people love Superman again. It made people respect Superman again, and I'm so happy about that. David Cornsweet was a great Superman. He is probably my favorite or second favorite Superman. It's him and Christopher Reeve. It really is. Honorable mention to Tyler Hoechlin in Superman and Lois, and Tom Welling from Smallville. But this was truly great. On top of that, there was a good love story between him and Lois. The side characters are great. Lex Luthor is awesome. Okay? The other superheroes in the movie, they're great. They play their role. They don't overshadow Superman, but they have their moments, and I'm glad. They balanced that really well. Mr. Terrific was awesome. Guy Gardner was the best Perfect Lantern to put in there as a foil to Superman because Guy Gardner's a jerk, and Superman is this wholesome little golden retriever type guy, you know? So that was a fun difference. Those were fun personalities. Metamorpho being live action is also crazy. Um, the action was great. I really enjoyed the use of his powers. I really enjoyed his feats. I really enjoyed Crypto, the super dog. Are you kidding me? Crypto's awesome. Now, the big thing that gets me, and I'm gonna switch here. The big thing that gets me is the message about kindness. It's, James Gunn, the director, who did Guardians. He's in charge of all of DC now, and he's doing a great job, in my opinion. The whole point of this, he said, is this is a movie about kindness in a world where kindness is old-fashioned or considered old-fashioned. And I was like, wow, that's a really good thing because, the world is an ugly place nowadays. There's a lot of hate. There's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of discourse. There's a lot of people shouting over each other. And the best thing to do in that scenario is not to join in and try and solve people's problems. The best thing to do is just to be kind, to be nice to each other, to encourage each other, to lift each other up. And that's something that I personally have strived to do. When I moved to North Carolina, especially, like I was in a new place, I was starting over, and it was a new chapter of my life, and I was unsure about everything. I didn't know anyone, and I figured the best thing for me to do is be as authentic as I can be. Be nice to people, be kind, because if I come in and I just start ruffling feathers because I do things one way my whole life and clash with other people, that's just going to make it worse for everyone, myself included, right? I want to be kind. The same thing with like Ninja. When I coach kids, I want to be kind. I want to be understanding. I want to make them better. I want them to learn things, but I want to be kind. And it was so relatable to me. And there's a scene where Superman and Lois Lane are sitting in chairs opposite of each other. And they're talking about punk rock bands that they like, and they're like, "Oh, you're not punk rock. Like you like all this like cheesy, corny stuff, and what like because you're Superman, you're wholesome, you're whatever. Like you're not grungy or whatever like that." And they're talking about punk rock bands or whatever. And then Lois Lane says, "You see the best in everyone. You look at everyone like they're beautiful, right? Like there's nothing wrong with them, and that they couldn't do anything wrong until they actually do something wrong." And she's just like, "I don't get how you do that because that's just not me. I look at the way things are. I look at how they realistically are. And you look at things with an idealist mind. You're so optimistic about people. You have faith that they can make the right decisions." And Superman looks straight back at her and he says, "Maybe that's the real punk rock. Like maybe that's the real minority. The maybe those are the real rebels of the world nowadays in a world spewing hate. The kind ones are the ones that stand out in the crowd and go against the system. And that scene is about halfway, not even halfway through the movie, and I cried. That scene made me cry because I was like, they understand not just Superman, but they understand what it means to like actually be a good person. That was such a profound scene. And then they have like 5 other scenes in the movie to back up those words. Superman's actions back up his talk. And it's so much better. It's so much better. I loved it so much. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. People can point out the flaws. I will not disagree with them. I don't care though. This is my favorite movie of 2025. It's one of my favorite superhero movies, period. It's one of my favorite movies, period. I feel very content with having this on the list. Yeah, they did make reference to Israel Palestine, in a way. There were some subtle comparisons there with the conflict that Lex Luthor was manipulating and stuff the whole time behind the scenes. It was pretty wild. So with that said, here's the list of all of the movies that came out in 2025 specifically. There were 24. that I watched that, you know, I watched 24 movies that came out in 2025. So all of these I watched in theaters, or most of them at least. Some of them I pirated. So that means 50 movies I watched that did not come out in 2025. Yeah, very nice. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching this stream. A 2-hour and 11-minute stream on something not Ninja Warrior, and you guys stuck with it. That's really cool. The stream's not over quite yet. I'm gonna stay on for a few more minutes, so don't go anywhere. Yeah, I really appreciated this. My goal this year is to get to 100. I think 100 movies is very realistic if I watch 2 movies every week. And right now I am pretty much on track to do so. That's the end of the slideshow. Let me do this real quick. Shift over the camera. Yeah, I'm going to try and watch 100 this year because I make my lists, right? I'm going to show you guys this. So don't go anywhere. I'm going to show you my list. And I'm also going to show you. Okay. I'm not going to show you the list of movies that I've seen this year because I think that would defeat the purpose of ranking it, right? You'll see some of my rankings. I've watched 7 movies so far. I'm going to watch 8 tomorrow. I'm going to watch number 8 tomorrow. In order, like in the order that I watched them in, I watched The Hateful Eight, Quentin Tarantino. I watched Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. I watched Parasite, and I watched all of those on the plane coming to Barbados. Then while here, I've watched 4 additional movies. I've done 2 a week because I've done Monday, Tuesday, and then Monday, Tuesday, because those are my days where I don't work out. So last week I watched The Sorcerer's Apprentice and Sisu, which was yeah. And then this week, this Monday and Tuesday, this past one, I watched The Phoenician Scheme and Taxi Driver. And then tomorrow, because it's still in theaters, I'm going to go watch Avatar, Fire and Ash. Because I really do want... In my head, Avatar is such a beautiful looking... They're a beautiful looking series of movies. If I don't watch it on the big screen, there's no point in watching. I don't want to watch gorgeous CGI on like a computer screen. That's a waste. I'm going to go watch it in theaters, you know? So that's going to put me at 8. And that is not the order in which I've ranked them. That is just the order in which I watched them chronologically. So here's what I did. I'm going to switch over to the screen. This is the Kane Casillas movie watch list. I have all of these. I'm not going to like take too much time to like go through every single movie. I'm just going to do a quick scroll while I talk. Again, these are things that have been recommended to me, things that I've wanted to watch for a while, things that I need to finish, things that are just kind of staples in cinema that I haven't watched and need to. And if I like it, I'll add the sequels. If I know that I'm going to watch the sequels, I'm just going to put all the sequels on there. You can slow this down looking back someday. And yeah, so these are just all of the movies that I want to see. They're kind of outrageous, some of them. Some of them are a little all over the place. And then here's a list of movies that I want to watch in theaters this year, because they come out this year. Scream 7, Send Help, Hoppers, Project Hail Mary, Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, the Super Mario Galaxy movie, Michael, maybe The Devil Wears Prada 2, but I haven't watched the first one yet. If I like the first one, I'll watch the second one. The Mandalorian and Grogu, Mortal Kombat 2, Masters of the Universe, Toy Story 5, Supergirl, which actually this was just changed to be titled not Woman of Tomorrow, but Supergirl. The Odyssey, Spider-Man Brand New Day, Coyote vs. Acme, Clayface, The Legend of Aang, The Last Airbender, Street Fighter, Sunrise on the Reaping, which is Hunger Games, Narnia the Magician's Nephew, Jumanji 4, Avengers Doomsday, Dune Part 3, Larry Boy, which is Veggie Tales, Pinocchio Unstrung and Pooniverse Monsters Assemble, The Bride, which is Bride of Frankenstein, Camp Rock 3, and Godzilla minus 0. That gives me a total of, and I title it Before I Die, because I want to watch these before I die, 338 movies currently to watch before I die. And I check it off the list every time. Now, some of you have seen this in mini dropscan and whatnot. I have a wheel. This wheel is a roulette wheel of all of the movies that I can watch in order. I have movies that I am going to watch, but the problem is, like, here, highlighted on your screen is Rocky 2. I watched Rocky 1. I'm not going to put Rocky 3 and 4 and whatever else on the wheel because I haven't watched Rocky 2 yet. It just doesn't make sense. So what I do every Monday and Tuesday is I spin this wheel and whatever movie it lands on, I watch. And that's how I decide what I'm going to watch every week. And it works. And so far, I've been enjoying this method. 247 entries on this wheel right now, which is pretty nuts. So, yeah, some of these I might just watch anyways because of sequels or whatever else. Like, if I want to watch Scream 7 in theaters, I'm going to have to just not wait for the wheel to land on Scream 3. And I'm just going to have to binge all the Screams, you know? Now, you say if I had to choose one Bond film, I'd do Skyfall and Casino Royale. So here's the thing, right? I told you guys that my dad is a big James Bond fan. Or no, I told you that my dad is the one who recommended a lot of the movies. My dad is a huge James Bond fan, like huge. He showed me the first one, Dr. No. I liked it. It was good. Something that my dad and I would do a lot is he would show me a lot of great movies. A lot of movies he grew up with, whatever else. I want to give that back. You know, I want to watch more movies with him. So when I go back to Hawaii, we're going to go through all of the James Bond movies. Even if we do one a month, there's 24 we haven't watched. So that's 2 years worth of stuff. Like once a month, just watch a James Bond, put it on the list, take it off the list, whatever, rank it. It'll be fun. I know he's not going to say no to it. That'll be great. Yeah. Out of the ones on the list, Blade Runner 2049 and the Planet of the Apes ones are my favorites. Yes, I've heard that I really do need to watch the Planet of the Apes trilogy. I am very excited to get into that. I think that'll be a lot of fun. Blade Runner 2049, I definitely want to watch. I've heard it's as good, if not better than the first one, and I really did like the first Blade Runner. So, you know, shoot, sign me up. I'm in. I'm very excited for this year of movies because this wheel is going to be very interesting. And that's just the wheel. That doesn't include what I'm going to go watch in theaters. Like, I'm going to go watch Avatar in theaters. That's not on the wheel. I can't put that on the wheel, you know? Like, I can't put something on the wheel and then it lands on the wheel and I have to go pay to watch it. You know, I'm just going to... Stuff that's free. Stuff I can pirate. But, yeah. It's going to be a fun journey. I think I'm going to get to 100. Because if I'm here until June, and I'm doing 2 movies a week until June, right? Let's see from this week onward. Where is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 48. Oh, wait. Yeah, that's an additional 40 movies. So I'll end my time in Barbados already at like 48 movies. And I'm probably going to go, and that's not including, sorry, I will get to 50 by then because that's not including movies that are coming out in theaters that I'm going to go and watch. I'm going to watch movies out here because I love movie theaters. They're some of my favorite places to be. I have some of the best memories from movie theaters, genuinely. I love that it's always different. Like growing up on an island, you kind of do everything by the time you turn 18, except for like clubs and drinking and whatever else. And I don't care to do that. I'm not a party guy. So that's not me. Movie theaters, the movie theater back on my home island was my favorite place to go. It was always different. There were different movies, but the vibe was the same. And I could get my favorite snacks and I could sit down and I could watch something new. And I could spend time with either my girlfriend, Sasha, who was my girlfriend at the time, not my wife, my family, whoever else, my friends. Some of my favorite memories are from movies. Like 2015, okay? This is where it gets crazy. December 14th, 2015, the special premiere of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I was a big Star Wars guy. Not as much anymore. Star Wars kind of lost me over the last couple years, but I love Star Wars for what it meant for me as a kid. I carried around to school that day a lawn chair, and in my backpack was a Jedi robe and a lightsaber. And I walked after school. I walked about a mile and a half across a bunch of streets on the side on some in some bike lanes and stuff like that. I walked to the movie theater and I set up my lawn chair and I was the third person in line. It was about 2:30 p.m. The premiere wasn't until 7. By the time 4 o'clock hit, the line wrapped around the building. I had made the right decision, and I was there playing lightsabers with my friends. Someone from the newspaper came and interviewed us about like why we love Star Wars so much and whatever else. My friends were there. We were all dressed up. We brought our action figures to play with in the meantime. I saw, we were just doing our thing. And then we go inside, we buy our food, we sit down, we're all waving our lightsabers around like we're super excited. Terminator's playing, and I was into Terminator, and then they stopped it, and then just the Lucasfilm logo comes up. And everyone just started cheering, and everyone was going nuts. And then it just went shh, because you saw on screen a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And you could hear a pin drop. And then you hear, ba-na! And the theme starts going, and the whole theater just went, yeah! And we were all on the same wavelength. The vibe was immaculate. Food was flying. People were shouting and everything else. But then when it was time to get the movie started, respectful as heck. Listening, not ruining it for other people. Then when it was a nostalgia time, when it was time to cheer for something because it was a reference to OG Star Wars, then everyone was cheering. Everyone was locked in. Like 300 of us just locked in to that show, that movie. And it was a fun movie. It was a fun movie. It is genuinely one of my favorite memories as a kid, period. I loved it. I loved it. It's yeah. Let me show you guys something. Okay? So, this is my wallet. I'm not going to show you guys the personal contents of my wallet, but I am going to show you guys something that's in the pocket here, okay? These are torn movie tickets, okay, from the movie theater on my home island. And I put this here in my wallet because these are the last movie tickets I will ever have from this theater. Unfortunately, the movie theater closed down due to COVID, and it never reopened. They just couldn't keep it afloat financially, and it never reopened. And now there is a single auditorium on the opposite side of the island. It has a movie screen and a projector, so we watch movies there occasionally. But it's also like it's a stage for like hula performances and high school band concerts. It's not a theater, you know? It's not a movie theater. It's not a cinema, right? This is the last I have of it. Every Christmas, my uncle would give us chocolate bars and movie tickets. He would, because there's a lot of cousins. I have a lot of cousins. So he would put chocolate bars and movie tickets on the Christmas tree with names on it for people to know it was theirs. And I loved the movie tickets all the time. So these I got from Christmas 2019. And we used them about a week later. I went and took it was like a double date and babysitting session of sorts. Um, so I went with Sasha, right? Sasha and I were driving them. My sister and her boyfriend at the time, they're not together anymore, but they went with us. And then three of our little cousins, they went with us to the theater and we watched Jumanji 3, which is the second one with The Rock. A lot of people call it 2. I very much do consider the Robin Williams Jumanji the first one, and then the one with The Rock is 2, and then the other one is the third. So the one that's coming out this year is 4, right? Um, that was the last movie I got to watch in that theater. That's why I remember it so vividly. And we gave them the Christmas movie tickets, and they ripped it in half, and they gave us back the other half to be like, here's your, proof of entrance that you have a ticket. This was December of 2019. And then I went about a week later. Sasha and I went back to school in California. And then 3 months later, COVID hit. And we never got to step foot back in that theater. And it's very sad. My favorite spot on island, gone. So, movies mean a lot to me, to say the least. In terms of media and pop culture, Ninja Warrior is obviously number one. I've dedicated my life to Ninja Warrior, right? But movies are pretty high up there. So that is why I decided to do this. That is why this stream is almost 2.5 hours long. I really appreciate you guys sticking with it. And if you guys liked it, maybe I'll do some more movie stuff. Maybe on this channel, maybe on the Caneverse, or maybe I'll just do an annual ranking stream, perhaps. I enjoyed doing this, so I might do it again. But that is going to wrap up the stream. I know it's probably late for some of you guys. It's about 10:30 over here in Barbados, so definitely get some good rest if you guys need it. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next stream, which I think is tomorrow.